we're set up, we're ready to go, and we'll turn it over to Scott.
And just amening what was just said, when we're talking about parenting, we might think of, first off, of course, the parents in an audience, but all of us can have an impact on little kids. I remember when I lived in Illinois between age second grade, pardon me, through, thank you, through junior high. But when I was a little guy, one of the main people I remember at church was Sister Phil. She was a older widow, and she sat right there, and she treated us kids good, and a lot of names I don't remember, and I remember her. And so we can all have an impact on kids, and as a family of God, support what's going on. Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way he should go, even when he's old, he will not depart from it. We're going to be talking about some common mistakes to avoid. I've made some of these mistakes. You probably made some of these mistakes. As we mentioned the first night, the aim here is not to beat ourselves up over, oh, I didn't do that right, but to realize, oh, I'll adjust that, correct that. Number one, huge mistake, failing to discipline. And if you've spent a lot of time at Walmart, you've seen this. You've seen the kids that have obviously just not been disciplined by their parents. Here's what the Bible says. In fact, I'm going to ask some of you brethren during this class period, we'll have a little bit of participation here. As these scriptures come up, if just one of you would read them as they come up. Volunteer for the first one. Read that loudly, please. All right, that was Proverbs 13:24. And next, Proverbs 19:18.
Discipline your son while there is hope, and do not desire his death.
Proverbs 22:15.
Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of discipline will drive it far from him.
Proverbs 23:13. Now, later we're going to be talking about abuse. Abuse and discipline are very, very different things. There are people that abuse children. There are people that need to be in prison because of the way they've treated children. That's not what we're talking about here. You'll recall the motivation of discipline in the first one. Who disciplines a child diligently? Those that love them. That's the motivation. But just because they cry doesn't mean they're, oh, the child. This is what one boy told his younger sister. He said, haven't you figured it out yet? The louder you cry, the quicker the spanking's over. So just because they're making noise doesn't mean that the child's being injured. The rod and reproof bring wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. 29:15. And one more. Amen. Children need discipline. There's so many people who act like they don't, and that the child should just be whatever the child wants to be. A little child doesn't know enough to know what's good for them. That's why we talked about yesterday how a robin and a kitten, they don't need their parents very long at all. God made our children dependent on us for a long time, and we have training we need to put into them. Years ago, I lived near a family, and they went to a good nearby congregation, and the mother had read some of the popular child books, and it had influenced her not to spank her children, apparently. Now, if you're at the dentist office and you see the parenting magazines, you know the type of often really, really bad advice that's in them. There's a lot of stuff going around now, and it's been going on really since Benjamin Spock, was it, who wrote a book back in the 50s that was very influential and very false in what it taught about discipline. And people have, unfortunately, sometimes decided that those books and those articles are more important than what this says. And that's what this mother did. So they went to the congregation, good congregation, but when it came to their child, they ignored what the Bible said, and they followed the pop psychology of the time. The boy was 4, and this always feels a little bit uncomfortable to say, I did not like him. And that kind of feels uncomfortable. Because you know what? 4-year-olds are delightful. They don't always behave perfectly. They have to learn some lessons. They have to be corrected. They have to be disciplined. But they are so much fun. But this child was being ruined by his parents. And I'll give you a couple examples. I'm sitting there one day in front of my house, and I hear them calling for the child. And to protect the guilty, we'll change the name. I was like, Tommy, get over here. I look over there, and Tommy's playing with his friend. He just ignores his parents. Later, Tommy, I said get over here. Ignores. Tommy, get over here now. Ignores. Later, Tommy, get up. Just over and over, every so often, they yell for him. He ignores them. There's no, but he's not, there's no follow-up. Eventually, Tommy decides he's going to go home, and he walks across in front of me with his little friend. And so I just asked him, I said, Tommy, why didn't you obey your parents when they called you? He goes, I didn't hear them. And his little bitty friend said, yes, you did. One time, I opened up my car door, and there's just a pile of dirt about that big in my car seat. And it was cloth seats. And it's just, that's what he put there for me. One day, he opens my door, doesn't knock on the door, just opens my door. And he's standing there. His overalls are wet in the front and brown in the back. And he goes, I don't have to use the bathroom. Now you understand what I'm saying. He was not a likable child. He was, and whose fault was that? That was his parents' fault. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know where he is today. By now, he's been a grown man. He's probably, he's middle-aged or older by now. And at this point, if he's not what he ought to be, it's his own fault. When you grow up and you're an adult, whether your parents did a good job or did a bad job, it's our job to serve God. But at 4 years old, that was his parents' fault. Because they decided to ignore what this said and not discipline him. And did it make him a happy child? And of course, when he went to school, do you think it went well? No, it did not. So don't ever make that mistake of failing to discipline. Discipline for the right purpose, out of love. But don't do that to a child, failing to discipline. Number 2, the mistake of rewarding misbehavior. People do this a lot. Parents reward misbehavior. What do we mean by that? I don't know anybody that says, hey, here's $5, go kick grandma. That's not the type of reward it is, but here's the rewarding of misbehavior. Why do children throw tantrums? You've seen kids in the grocery store or Walmart or something throwing a tantrum to get something. Why do they do that?
It works.
It works. Yeah. What do you mean it works?
They want something, they're maybe told no, they throw the tantrum, they get what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. One friend of mine, he said he was in the store, and the boy kept saying, I want that truck. And Dad said, no, we're not getting that truck. I want that truck. No. He wasn't throwing a tantrum. He just kept demanding over and over. I want that truck. No, no. And they're standing like, I want the over and over and over and over. I want that truck. No, I said no. I want that truck. They finally got up there, and then the father reaches and grabbed the truck and put it up there. And I think the cashier or him or something said, you're going to give it to him now? And just, but another one was, you'll see kids throw a tantrum, it'll go kind of like this. You know, mom's got him in the little buggy seat there, and he wants that cereal or that candy or that stuff. I want that, I want that. No, honey, we're not going to get that today. You know, we're just picking up these. But I want it, I want it. No, we're not going to get that today. No, I want it, I want it. And he gets louder and louder. And shh, shh. No. You're mean. I hate you. Shh, shh, shh. And what does mom start doing at this point? Looking around, because everybody's looking at her, right? Shh, shh. And she might say something foolish. I don't know why. He never does this. Yes, he does. and he starts screaming and yelling. He hates her, whatever. And what does she say? You're embarrassing me. Have you ever seen the child go, I beg your pardon? I had not realized. I'm so sorry, Mother. No. He knows he's embarrassing her. He knows how this works. The louder he gets, the more upset, the more awkward she gets. People are looking, and so what finally happens? What did she just do? Yeah, she rewarded misbehavior. What does rewarding misbehavior do? Yeah, it guarantees more misbehavior. You know, if I want a cold drink and I go up and I put my money in the thing and I push the button, I do that. Why? Because I know it works. You put your money in, you get this and get that. Now, it doesn't have to always work. It's kind of like if a dishonest person knows there's this one vending machine and if you kick it, you might get a drink. They're going to kick it and kick it and kick it because every once in a while they get a freebie. So even if it doesn't always work, they'll go for it if it sometimes works. That's why, do you remember the Somali pirates several years ago? Were you surprised when we had pirates again? Because I kind of thought that was a 1700s thing. Why were they doing it? Anybody remember? Off the coast of Somalia, they were seizing, large vessels, and they would hold them. They were getting away with it, and they would demand a ransom for the boat or the passengers, and then the country or the company would drop in a big bag, like a few $1 million, into the ocean. The pirates would pick it up, and that's why they did it. And of course, each time they were paid off, that guaranteed what? Yes! So don't reward misbehavior. Don't lower the bar and accommodate and facilitate misbehavior. Let's imagine a scene. One mom has come over to the other mom's house, and they're visiting and talking. With the mom that lives there, she's got some little bitty guys, and the mom visiting has a bigger guy. And whether they're playing with toys or trying to watch a video or something, the little ones are doing something, maybe they're watching something age appropriate, but the bigger one decides that that's dumb and that's for babies, and he starts being rude, and he's pushing the other kids and changing it and everything and stopping it. He says, I want to do this, and he's knocking down the other kids, and they're crying. And the moms hear some trouble, and they step in there and they see what's going on. Visiting mom goes, Oh, I'm going to go with Billy again. Oh, Billy, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't push the other children. Do you have another TV or another game system? So Billy could do his. No! Don't facilitate misbehavior. When a child is misbehaving, the last thing that he should get, let me correct that. The thing that he should never get is what he wants. When a child is misbehaving, he doesn't get what he wants. It means nothing to come in there and say, Billy, you shouldn't have done that. Billy, you should share. Billy, you should be nice. Can you find one where Billy gets to do what he wants to do and your little children aren't in his way? No. What really needs to happen right here? Yeah. And he's just been rude and disrespectful and made these other kids cry. He's being a little bully. What does Billy need? Billy needs a spanking. And what else does Billy need to do? Billy needs to apologize. He needs to apologize to those other boys and that mother. Now, you can choose a different way. I believe I would give Billy spanking right in front of everybody. And you might choose to do it elsewhere. I think this is that will embarrass Billy. Yep. And he's going to apologize, and he's going to get a spanking, and he is not going to watch anything or play the video game. And Billy's going to learn that you don't do that. You give Billy what he wants, what's Billy going to keep doing? He's going to keep misbehaving. Letting a child get his way is not doing him a favor. It will spoil him. Remember last night we talked about the little girl in the worm? She wasn't getting what she wanted. She's just demanding and a miserable little girl. Letting a child get his way will not satisfy him. It will spoil him. Importance of boundaries. There was a study done one time. There was a park in a city, and so you had roads with buses, trucks, strangers and stuff, and here's a playground, and the kids tended to play here. They put up a fence, and guess where the kids played? Anybody? They played all over the playground. Why? What changed? Yes. This is our area now. It was safe and secure. We have boundaries. Kids thrive on boundaries. How many of you have had children in your home that are from a dysfunctional home, a chaotic home, maybe no parents, things like that, and where they're at, there's no rules. They can do anything. They can talk any way. They can behave any way. And in your home, there are rules, but what have you noticed about those kids when they come in your home and get used to spending a little time in your home? What do they love? They love being in your home. Why? And over there, they can say anything they want. They can do anything they want. Why are they happier in your home? Yeah. It's not chaos in some adult that doesn't care anything about them. It's adults that are kind and care about them and have rules and boundaries. And instead of chaos, there is order, and they love it. That doesn't mean that every child is going to like every rule that comes along, but they don't do well with no rules. They do well with rules. Same with us and God. It's just really, really important. There was another time I was doing this here in Indiana, and family I was staying with, they had a couple of teenage kids, and they had a friend whose parents just didn't care about him. One night, so like around age 16 or so, one night, the Christians, they said, we got to go home, we've got a curfew. The other boy didn't have a curfew. He could, if he stayed out all night, he wouldn't be in trouble. You know what he said when his friends had to go home because they had a curfew? He said, I wish I had somebody that cared enough about me that cared where I was. He had freedom that a lot of teenagers might think, that's great. It wasn't great. Let's proceed. Somebody said the difference between a boy and a pig, if you give both of them everything they want, you'll have a really bad boy and a really tasty pig. The Bible says, the rod and reproof bring wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. Amen? As a general rule, you get what you expect. If you expect tantrums, you will get them. If you expect dishonesty, you will get it. If you expect bad attitudes, you will get it. But if you really expect the opposite and require and train for the opposite, you'll get the opposite. That doesn't mean, well, my child threw a tantrum. I thought you said they wouldn't. They might throw it once or twice, but don't let it keep happening. They might, this is my first one. I remember when she told a lie. This was the hardest spanking she'd ever had at that point. And I looked at my little girl, and her white tennis shoes had ink scribbled all over them. And I said, April, I said, what happened to your shoes? And she said, a snake did it. And I said, April, a snake does not have hands to be able to hold an ink pen. He held it in his mouth. And see, here's the thing. I was determined to have honest kids. And let me tell you one of the reasons why. And my kids knew one of the ways to be in the biggest trouble was to tell a lie. Why was that my philosophy? Because I knew that my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 4-year-old was later going to be a teenager. And if I had a liar when they were a teenager, I wouldn't know if they were telling me the truth or not. A 16-year-old has enough going on up here that they can tell a convincing lie. And before I dealt with other people's kids who like, yeah, we saw him drinking beer and stuff. No, it was a Pepsi. And it's, who to believe? I didn't want to deal with that. So I decided I'm going to train them young not to lie. Well, at age 2, I'm like Sherlock Holmes, that I was able to figure out it wasn't a snake. Whoa, age 16, it's not going to be that way. So we had a long talk about how she was never to lie. And then she got a harder spanking than she had gotten before. And then she was an honest girl, and she's an honest woman today. You remember, and I'm not saying treat kids like this, but it's just a concept. When we say expect, I'm not sure how the Marines might be now more like it used to be. But you remember the old idea of the Marine drill sergeant? When some new recruits got there to Parris Island and they got off the bus, did the drill sergeant think that fresh group of 18-year-olds could do push-ups according to his expectations, make a bed, march, follow orders like they're supposed to? Did he think they already were there? No, he didn't think that. What were they doing by the end of 6 weeks? Why? Because he expected it. Now that doesn't mean treat your kids like you're a drill sergeant. It's just a point about expectations. Expectations doesn't mean these brand new 18-year-olds can't do it like they're supposed to. I didn't expect that. No, you knew they didn't start out that way, but you're expecting they will get there. So expect your children to stop throwing tantrums. Expect your children to stop lying. Expect them to stop having bad attitudes. Train them out of it. You'll get the opposite. Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Here's another one. expecting misbehavior. I'm not talking about wanting misbehavior, hoping for misbehavior, or preferring misbehavior, but expecting misbehavior. And this can especially happen after you have several kids. This one was pretty compliant and easy. And that one is, but that one right there, he's just more stubborn, he's more difficult, and after a while, some parents just kind of give up on that one, and well, that's the way he's going to do. You know what? If he's 18 or 20, that may be the case. If he's 2 or 3, no. Who's there to help him not be that way? That's the parent. Foolishness is in the heart of the child. It's to be driven out of him. So expecting misbehavior leads to stuff like this. Oh, we can't take him to the restaurant. Well, after all that sugar, he's going to be impossible. He'll just pitch a fit if he doesn't get his way. Oh, I'll never get him to eat that. Sorry, my son's not much of a sharer. And who hears all of those things? Who's hearing that? Yeah, what message is that giving him? Yeah, and there's not a solution. What motivation is there for him to do better? And he can see Mom gave up. Dad gave up. By the way, this one right here, the second one, there are children who there might be a certain additive or food dye or food that they're allergic to that you and your doctor know that they don't react well to that food and they need not to eat that food. In that case, make sure that your child doesn't have that food. That's just common sense. What I'm talking more about here is just blaming misbehavior on it. And here's a good way to understand this. You've taken children to birthday parties, right? What do children usually eat at a birthday party? Birthday cake with lots of icing, plus ice cream, plus maybe Kool-Aid. Are they getting a lot of sugar? Now, if your child needs to not eat sugar, fine, they're not getting, but typical kid, they're eating a lot of sugar, right? The well-trained children, at the end of the party, when Mom says, it's time for us to go, let's help Mrs. Johnson clean up, what do the well-trained children do? They're a little disappointed it's over, but they say what? Yes, ma'am. And they start putting things away, and they leave, and they might say, oh, I wish we could have stayed longer, but that was fun or something. You know, it would have been nice, but they do what they're supposed to. What do the badly trained children do? Yeah. There you go. Just whatever they can do to get it. And then somebody says, and somebody's pitching a fit and acting, and the mom goes, oh, well, it's all that sugar. No. The well-trained kids had just as much sugar. It's a lack of training. But sugar gives you energy. Yes, but it doesn't mean we don't control it. Somebody here probably stopped and filled up with gasoline in the last day or two. Some of you might have put premium in your vehicle. Did you lay rubber and go flying down the road and you get pulled over and you said, well, after all that premium gas? That's not an excuse to misbehave. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of the child. The rod of discipline will drive it far from him. Do not give up on your little troublemaker. It's not his job to train himself. It's his job to learn. It's your job to train. Teach him, train him, help him feel secure, loved, and motivated to do good. And they do come in different. We're going to talk later in the last lesson about particularly stubborn children, self-willed children, and that type of thing. There's a strength in those children that needs to be channeled. We'll talk more about that later. Don't give up on those guys. As a general rule, we've already done that chart. Mistake number 4, failing to be consistent. Proverbs 13:24 said, he who loves him disciplines him when they feel like it. He who loves him disciplines him when you're not busy. He who loves him disciplines him if it hadn't been a long day and you're not tired. No, what does the text say? He who loves him disciplines him diligently. Yeah, but I got other stuff. I had a mom tell me one time, I don't have time to deal with every disobedience. Well, then you're just going to have more and more and more of it. But we've got to go over. No, you don't. Stop and deal with your child. We might miss the soccer game. Yeah. Stop and deal with your child. Train your child. I want you to imagine a city that treated no parking violations like this. So let's imagine kind of a historic city, and there's a downtown pedestrian area, you know, the old cobblestone streets and historic buildings, and there's no parking allowed down there. So you got to park way over here and pay, you know, $20 and then walk down there, and people would like to be able to park there, but you can't. And they don't. Why? Because they know they're going to get a ticket or a boot or get towed. So they don't. But what if everybody in town knows that the person that goes around checking for violations does it like this, and everybody knows it? You can go park right in front of that no parking sign, and after about 10 minutes, you're going to get a little slip of paper that says, please do not park here. 10 minutes later, you're going to get another one that says, I asked you not to park here. 10 minutes later, you get one in bold print that says, I really mean it, do not park here. After another 10 minutes, it says, don't make me tell you again. After 50 minutes, I'm going to start counting to 10. And after an hour, you're going to get a ticket. What's that area going to look like?
Lots of people parking for 50 minutes.
Yes, that's exactly right. With all these different colors of slips on there. And here's the person doing the ticket. I don't know why these people keep doing this. You ever seen moms say that, where they keep not disciplining the child? Say, I don't know why he does that. We know why he does it, because he knows the system. I was doing it in Nebraska one time, and somebody told a story from their family. There was a little girl, she was upstairs, her name was Mary Elizabeth, and mom downstairs was calling for her. Said, Mary, come down here. And Mary just kept playing. A little bit later, Mary, get down here. She just kept playing. Mary, get down here. She kept playing. Then mom went to the middle name. Mary Elizabeth, get down here. And the aunt said, Mary, why don't you go? And little Mary Elizabeth said, she'll call 3 more times. So, mistake, diligent, be consistent. Mistake number 5, thinking I don't have the time. I told you about the mom said, I don't have time. That's like saying I don't have time to get rid of lice. Okay? Did your kids ever slept at a cousin's house or something and came back, they had lice? When you found out, did you go, oh, I think it's just a phase? I don't have time. What happens when you don't clean it up? It gets worse. Child training time is well invested time, and it saves time. Hebrews 12 says, all discipline for the moment seems not joyful but sorrowful, yet afterwards it yields the peaceful fruit. And the next one, I'm not sure if we have time for or not. How many minutes do we have? Oh, done. All right. I was thinking there was a warning bell. All right, we're done. All right, thank you very much.